Now we're going to try to drive success through effective information systems. Now I'm going to give you a 30,000 foot view because it's important. It really it helps us understand what are the issues with data and understanding what's going on when we have systems that are built really, minute to minute, period to period, and then strategic overall. So there's three basic kind of systems out there you should be aware exist. There's a transaction processing system. Think of it as the cash registers. Lots of users, lots of transaction, constantly changing throughout the day, and that's what it's good at. And for lots of technical reasons, that's all it's good at. And then there's the management information system, which is, it's your accounting package. It manages the business. You may have one that's useful if you're a manufacturer for production. Not as many users, takes data from transaction processing, makes periodic updates. The reason we have accounting systems is to make the daily, weekly, monthly, annual reports and things. And then finally, there's decision support, where we're drawing data from a lot of sources. And that's something that's often not thought about. And we need to think about that. And online, we might be talking about a tool like a Hootsuite or a Sprout that gives us dashboards that tells us how all our different online systems are doing. But we have this complexity that we have to deal with now. We're now herding cats. So we know we're going to have data from lots of different sources. We know we have to have business rules to understand things. And by a business rule, I mean, it's something like a business rule says, this is when we say the order happened. In other words, did the order happen when the customer ordered it, or when they paid for it, or when it was shipped, or when it was delivered? That's a business rule, and saying, okay, this is the time that we count. And systems are different, and so we have to make sure they're all considered the same as we go along. And our decision support system, well, that's you and maybe one other person, very few users, very long range decisions. So your transaction processing system says you're running low on cottage cheese today, make an order right now. Your decision support system says, let's spend more time on Google Ads or something like that as we look through our information. Okay, now as we talk more about systems and driving through that, let's put it another way, because I want to make sure you have the vocabulary that the concepts I'm giving you are useful and make sense. There's the POS, the point of sale, the ERP, the enterprise resources planning, and the distributed ERP. And like I said, the online is decentralizing, while how we deal with data is decentralizing too. So the point of sale is is a TPS system. It's transaction processing system. It's what the customer sees or meets. It sets the technological limits on the checkout experience. And oh boy, does that cause challenges when you're selling in multiple places. If you have one point of sale system, which ultimately it would come back to, and you're selling on your website, and you're selling on Facebook and eBay and wherever else, how you pull all that together becomes a real challenge. So a TPS system working with multiple options of purchase is a technological challenge. It's becoming more common, but it's still a challenge. Enterprise resource planning ties together our management information systems with our supply chain and supports our logistics. Now, what you see as essentially an appropriate front end, the interface you deal with is an appropriate front end for a consumer. You buy something and you want to know where it is. Okay, so we have to interface with our logistics and either send you the link to track something, or be able to take something and say, okay, this is where that product is right now. Kind of like we mentioned earlier about Uber, you know where the car is, as Ed was coming to, as Ed mentioned. So there's another challenge in tying systems together that we work towards over time to do a better job with. And that can also matter where something is that's coming in. It's not to us yet, so we could assemble it to give it to you. And then there's distributed enterprise resource planning, where we're tying everything together into our decision support so that it's end-to-end But you had to deal with business rules, and you had to deal with the fact that there were different times. This thing was updated hourly, and that thing was updated nightly, as you're making these end-to-end decisions as to what's going on. That's why often we make the strategic decisions on a periodic basis. It really doesn't matter what happens between 1:38 and 1:40 in the afternoon, but it does matter what happened this week or this month. And so we look at things in those kinds of periods just to deal with the business rules and the inherent complexity. Now, all of your sales come from all of your customers. That was true yesterday, it's true today, it's going to be true tomorrow. And we only do three things in marketing, really, when you break it down. We get customers, we keep customers, and we grow customers. And our business tomorrow is dependent on who we get, who we keep, and how much we grow the people that we have. The most key asset is the customer. Your profitability, if we look into the future from today, we remember net present value. It's the net present value, the future profit stream from your customer base. And if you want that to go up, well, you can get more customers, you can keep more customers, you can grow the customers you've got. And you want to consider the acquisition and the churn cost. So at the beginning of the workshop, we were talking about get, keep, and grow, and how if we're going to acquire customers, we should plan to keep them. And if we keep them, we should plan to grow them and get a larger share of their business. So we want to understand what we're spending to get a customer in terms of marketing, communication, and time, how many we're losing, how many are churning out. And also, we want to make sure that we know what it's worth to get them, and we know what it should be worth to keep them if we do a good job of retention and growth. And oh, by the way, my general experience in looking at businesses that are having a problem with customer acquisition being too expensive is the problem was they had poor retention. They weren't retaining the people that they acquired. And so they'd go spend, $10 to get a new customer, and they were actually worth $9. Well, if they had made them, if they did a better job of retention and growth, so they were worth $20, well, all of a sudden $10 is a bargain. So I would bet you dollars to donuts that if you have an acquisition cost problem, you really have a retention and growth problem. So we really want to think about that asset value of the customer, which includes our brand value. The more our brand is valuable, the better our reputation, our name, the easier it is to acquire customers, the better retention we're going to have, the more they're going to buy from us. And we want to think about what would it cost to build or replace them, because we don't want to lose them. What about the future value when they go? How do we build it with cross-selling? How do we grow their share of wallet? To me, Alan, loyalty isn't merely retention. Retention is nice. Retention is a thing. Loyalty is high share of wallet. They buy everything they can from us. Let's use a grocery store example. The typical person, and I'm a typical person, you probably are too, shops at about 3 different grocery stores. There's certain places you buy your canned goods, and somewhere else you buy your meat and produce and so forth. And this place is just handy. And none of them have 100% of your business. But if any one of them could get more of your business, the others would get less. And having analyzed grocery store data, I can tell you the more people buy per visit at the grocery store, the more they visit that grocery store. So to me, that share of wallet, buying as much as they can from you, that's true loyalty, and that's what we're really after. Okay, so let's think about effective information systems. We want to drive success with key performance indicators and dashboards. So key performance indicators, the 5 to 7 top level, most high priority things that you have. So what does it cost to get people to engage with you in some way? What does it cost to get people to buy something from you in some way? We want to have some rules for our dashboards and our tools. And I think the best way to describe some of the basic rules for a top level or for each manager or each management set is they need to have about 5 to 7 gauges. Now think about that for a second. If you sit down into any car or you sit on any motorcycle where you would look at it and say, wow, this is a really good dashboard. I like these gauges. Guess what? There's 5 to 7 gauges on it. And the reason that 5 to 7 number works is because you're a human being. And you, as a human being, can monitor 5 to 7 things at once. And so that becomes our top level. What are our 5 to 7 top level priorities that reflect our management priority? And how do we make sure it's accurate and reliable? And I think I've explained all the challenges that go on with these different kinds of systems and all these different places to monitor, where we want to say, okay, how do I know that I know what I know? So we're going to use tools. We can, for online, for example, we would use tools like Hootsuite or Sprout that help us make dashboards to look at what we want to measure online. Google Analytics does a good job for free of letting us put together dashboards. They give us templates. We can put together apps, but we want to think about how we keep this thing simple. Similar rules to a car dashboard. We want things that look normal when everything's normal. We want things that look wacky when everything's wacky. So it highlights the alerts and the exceptions, and it doesn't draw our attention to normal, everyday other stuff.